What a week it's been, First Baptist Church. All this gearing up for the 12 hours of sharing, only to find out on Thursday, of course, that the race has been postponed. Then last evening hearing that the schools are now closed for 2 weeks to include the first week of spring break. The store shelves are bare as people are buying and overbuying products. And the truth is there's a lot of fear, a lot of anxiety for folks concerning the unknown and what this might look like long term and quite honestly even short term. So there are a couple of things I wanted to address with you today by way of this YouTube video that I hope answers some questions and gives us some direction for where we're heading, and so you'll understand what the plan is. The first concerns our worship service tomorrow morning. At present, and it's I'm not even sure what time it is. It's probably 11:30 on Saturday. We have no reason to believe that we need to discontinue our gathering together for our morning worship service tomorrow. So as of right now, all systems are a go. Now, there may be some families with young children, perhaps even senior adults, who believe it might be in their best interest to stay away from large gatherings. We completely understand that. Our live feed will be available to you. Simply go to FBSebring.com, find that live stream button on the website, and that live stream will be available to you of our worship experience beginning at 10:30 in the morning. So no harm, no foul for those who feel like that's your best course of action. By all means, follow that, and we'll be grateful just to be able to worship together, even if it's a virtual gathering. So a couple of things I just share with you by way of trying to be protective of everybody involved here. If you are feeling ill, please, for your own safety and the safety of others, remain at home. If you are experiencing symptoms that are in line with the COVID-19, of course, seek out the health authorities here in Highlands County and be certain that you are taking care of yourself. But concerning our worship gathering tomorrow, if you're feeling ill, please just remain home, just for your own safety and the safety of everybody else that'll be at the church. To help ensure the well-being of our church family, let's refrain from touching one another through hugs and handshakes. We'll just give one another our biggest and best smiles and heartfelt hellos. We're not going to diss one another. We're not going to trample one another. But just for the sake of trying to be protective, let's refrain from touching one another with hugs and handshakes. Feel free to bring your personal hand sanitizer with you tomorrow. You might want to share a drop with your friends, and we'll do those things that are simple enough to protect us and try to cut down on any bugs passing from one person to the next. And by all means, don't be afraid. We know that our God is in control and that He has an incredible plan. And we're going to trust Him with that. We know He's not abandoned us. We know that none of this caught Him by surprise. So let's allow fear and anxieties to be replaced by faith, because we know the one who is in charge. Now, allow me to say this. Yesterday evening, Friday evening, 5 o'clock, word came down that the public schools would be dismissing classes for those 2 weeks to include spring break week. If something like that were to occur today, from the standpoint of the government feeling it necessary to restrict large group gatherings, which would include the gathering of the body of Christ in specific sanctuaries across the state. If something like that were to happen today, of course, we're going to do our best to follow the governing authorities. So we have in place a plan where even with all of us staying in our homes and not gathering together, that our tech team has made themselves available, the pastors, will come together there at the church, and we'll offer a worship experience online. We're not going to forego our time together. Our time together just may be a virtual gathering instead. So if that does occur, we will communicate that through QuickCast, so that you know that the government has asked that we not come together in large numbers. And again, that live stream of the worship experience that's offered can be found by going to our website at FBSebring.com. Click on the live stream button there at 10:30, and that worship service will be available to you there. Now, I just find it ironic that 1 year ago, almost to the day, it was March 16th, 2019, God birthed a vision in my heart that many of you caught too. That vision centered itself on what we now know as the 12 hours of sharing. We poured ourselves into this evangelistic outreach. We invested money, time, and energy, and we attempted to cover every detail of that experience because we're ambitious to see people come to know Jesus. The fact is, God isn't surprised by the coronavirus, nor was he surprised by the postponement of the 12 hours of Sebring. And the truth is, God hasn't changed his desire to see people changed by the glorious gospel of Jesus Christ. We are preparing, we are planning, we are scurrying in our planning to put together an opportunity for us to go out into Sebring, to take it to the streets, to still share the gospel. We were ambitious to share the gospel with 10,000 people, a number nearly equal to Sebring's population. But this radical change that has occurred now because of the coronavirus, perhaps God is showing us that he didn't want us to reach 10,000 people that equal to the Sebring's population, but that God, planning us here in Sebring, wants us to actually reach Sebring's population. So we're putting together a plan. We want to unroll that plan and add to and modify that plan this coming Sunday evening. Tomorrow evening at 6 p.m., we're going to convene a meeting in the fellowship hall. We've invited people who have been trained through the 12 hours of sharing venue, and we're inviting you to come for that planning session at 6 p.m. because our desire is to have a plan ready for Thursday, Friday, and Saturday of next week, the very days that the 12 hours of sharing was to be conducted, where we can take it to the streets and begin knocking on the doors of folks right here in our communities. Now, again, with large group gatherings restricted, we're not going to call for a large group gathering. We're going to put folks in teams, 2 folks, potentially 3 folks that'll knock on doors. And we just want to be the hands and feet of Jesus. We want our community to know that First Baptist Church isn't running from them, and we're not running in fear, but that we actually have the response to fear. Our response to fear is faith in Jesus, because we know he's in charge. We know he's in control. We know he hasn't abandoned us. And because so many are overwhelmed with anxiety and fear, perhaps God would open a door for us in those moments to share the life-changing message of the gospel of Jesus Christ. We have nearly 100 people who have been trained in the 3 Circles presentation. We have many other folks in our church who are comfortable sharing the gospel. This setting is drastically different from what we expected at the race, meaning we won't have the loud, obnoxious noise drowning us out. So we want to call all hands on deck. Come and be a part of this. We're going to have an opportunity to pray with people who are afraid. We might be able to provide an opportunity to help folks who need some small thing from our church family. And of course, we certainly want to be able to see the gospel applied to their lives. So the plan is we're going to meet for that. We're going to call that meeting tomorrow evening, 6 p.m. We'll have that meeting in the fellowship hall. Now, you might ask, well, what if the governor restricts us from having large group gatherings like we've already discussed in this video, that'll be fine. If he shuts it down, no more than 50 people in a room at a time, perhaps we have to divide that group and have multiple meetings at once to plan. We want to put a map of a particular area into every team's hands so that they can canvass those areas. Our desire is to knock on as many doors as possible, to share the gospel with as many as possible, and to let our community know that First Baptist Church of Sebring loves this community. And we believe that even in the midst of fear and anxiety, that we have an answer and we can give a response for the hope that is in us. Third and finally, I'd like to mention to you that your church staff is ready to serve you. We include our names and our phone numbers in the weekly bulletin, so I hope that you have access to one of those. Go back to your Bible, pull last week's bulletin out, and you'll see on the reverse side of that our names and phone numbers listed there. We stand ready to respond to any need that you have, any concern that you have. Let us come alongside and be a blessing to you during this scary time. Of course, during the week, our office will be open. The office phone number is 863-385-5154. And you can certainly give us a call there and let us know what you need, and we can discover how we might be able to come alongside and be a blessing to you. Some of you have heard me say this over the course of these last several weeks and couple of months. In 100 years from now, none of us will be here. We'll all be in glory because our time will have come and we'll be with Jesus. But if Jesus tarries in his coming, First Baptist Church of Sebring will still be shining her light right here in this community. What if during the third week of March every single year, those members of First Baptist Church of Sebring commemorate what God began doing in Sebring in March of 2020. Now, I've shared this several times in recent months thinking about the race, but it looks to me like God has had an even bigger plan all along. Now's not a time for us to shrink back in fear. Now's the time for us to rise to the occasion in faith. God is up to something bigger than any of us could have ever imagined. God is inviting us to a task, to an experience wherein we can be his hands and feet during a time, not just when our community or our state, not just when our nation, but even the entire globe is afraid. We have the gospel, which is life-changing, and we have an opportunity to see that gospel applied to people's hurts, fears, and anxieties for the glory and honor of God. So brothers and sisters, I want you to be wise in your preparation. I want you to be thorough in your care for yourself and those who are closest to you. But let us not lay aside the great privilege that is ours as believers, as those who are blood-bought and born again, to come alongside people in this great time of fear and anxiety, to be a voice of truth and a voice of reason. Perhaps God intends to use First Baptist Church of Sebring and our sister churches right here in the heartland of Florida to make an impact on our community during the time of the coronavirus that could not otherwise be made. Right now, during the third week of March in 2020, God is orchestrating a plan wherein his Spirit might be poured out and send a revival here in Sebring, in Florida, and across our nation, around our globe, the likes of which humanity has never before seen. Let us rise to that occasion. Let us be bold and courageous in our faith, that we might see Jesus lifted high, that we might see the church rise, and that we might see men and women and boys and girls come to faith in Jesus. God bless you, and I'll see you soon.